When and how to reopen parts of the economy have become highly charged political issues. Now that some states have moved forward, are we seeing any health effects? Washington Post national correspondent Philip Bump wrote about it in the paper this week. He joins us with that and a whole lot more. Philip, good morning to you. The president wants to not only fast track a vaccine, but also reopen the economy. But reemerging from this pandemic, as we know, does not have a one-size-fits-all solution. Talk about why that is so complicated.
Well, it's complicated for a number of reasons. I mean, the first and foremost, obviously, is the fact that each individual place, state, municipality, county, has to figure out when and if it's actually ready to start letting businesses get back to work. At the same time, even when they say, hey, let's open our economies, let's have people start going back to restaurants and bars and so on and so forth, it's up to individuals themselves to determine whether or not they're actually ready to do so. And so one of the things we've seen in Georgia, for example, is that people haven't really been willing to re-engage in the economy because they're still worried about the risks that the virus poses.
Philip, right now all eyes are on those states that have begun the process of reopening, right, and lifting some of those restrictions, or a lot of the restrictions. Is it too early to tell if those states will pay a price or not for reopening too soon?
It's too early to tell broadly. I think it's safe to say it has been more than 2 weeks, which is the window at which we look, because that's generally seen as the broadest extent of the incubation period. So far, when we look at the numbers, as I did this week, there hasn't been a huge uptick in the number of cases or in the number of new positive confirmations of the virus, of infections in those states that have reopened, which obviously is good news. It is still early, but it is also the case that cases there are growing faster than in cases where the economy has remained mostly shuttered.
Philip, Nicole outlined the $3 trillion coronavirus relief package that the House narrowly passed, and obviously Republican opposition, the president has vowed to veto that. Included in that was help for state and local governments. So what does this mean right now for them?
Well, both Republican leadership in the Senate and President Trump have expressed very vocal opposition to providing assistance to state and local governments. This is a huge problem. It's a huge problem in part because these are state and local governments which are actually providing funding for some of these first responders, which are critical to the fight in the virus. And so I think there's this tension that exists between an opposition to providing more assistance to those governments and the urgency with which those governments actually need the funding right now. I'm not sure how that gets resolved. Clearly, the Republican leadership and the president have said that this bill is a no-go, but it may just be an opening gambit to try and resolve this sooner rather than later.
36 million job loss claims in the past couple months. Obviously, the economy is hurting. Where are we in this balance of trying to get the economy back and people being concerned with doing the right thing for health?
Yeah, I mean, it's really uncertain. We're in this very awkward period where there are people generally, if you look at polling, people really understand the need to wear masks. They understand the need to try and stay home as much as possible. They understand why we are doing this right now. And because of that, because people have internalized the risks, they were seeing these stories about what happens when you have this viral infection, people are not willing to engage broadly. I mean, we do see, certainly there are some people who are engaging in the economy. There are some people who are protesting the shelter-at-home orders, but those people are a minority in the country. And until people feel comfortable in going out and behaving as they would have 4 months ago, people aren't going to behave as they would have 4 months ago. And that's why things like the vaccine are so urgent.
Philip, we were already recession bound when we had to literally halt the economy here. So if you can spin it forward and look in the crystal ball a little bit, what does this mean for our economy as we go forward?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the economy is going to take a huge hit. We could see unemployment hitting over 20%. The long-term ramifications of the question, President Trump has said that we can probably see a quick rebound. A lot of economists disagree, and that's really the question mark over the long term.
All right, Philip Bump, thank you. We appreciate the insight.